Another 5-minute mystery. It is after showtime in a downstairs restaurant in Lower New York. Pat Logan, private detective, and his girl Friday, Diana Bellows, are out for an evening's entertainment.
2 more, Tony.
Sure, Mr. Logan. You have it right away.
Oh, Pat, isn't it wonderful? The whole evening to ourselves. No murders, no robberies. Nothing but fun.
Well, I promised you this evening out, didn't I? As soon as the Morrison case was closed.
I know, Pat. I think maybe that's why I like you so.
Like me?
Well, maybe a little more.
Mr. Logan.
Yes, Tony, what's the matter? No more antipasto?
No, Mr. Logan, it's worse than that. Something terrible.
Well, what is it? What's happened?
In the back room, Joe Matelli, the owner of this place. He's just been shot.
All right, Tony. And you, Mr. Koski. I'd like to talk to both of you in here. Diane, the coroner will be here any minute. He might need your help.
All right, Pat, I'll go wait for him.
Now then, let's get this story straight. Mr. Koski, Tony tells me you discovered the body.
That's right. I just left Joe not more than 3 or 4 minutes before. He'd been in a depressed mood for days over some money he owed, but the suicide really gives me a turn.
How soon would you say you got to the body after the shot was fired, I mean?
Oh, just a matter of seconds. I was in the next room when I heard the shot. I ran in just as Joe was slumping to the floor.
And the gun, this gun right here, was in his hands.
That's right, Mr. Logan. It dropped right then when he fell.
Uh-huh. And you, Tony?
Yeah, I heard the shots, too, just as I was coming up from the wine cellar. When I come in, Koski was standing over Joe.
Mm-hmm. I noticed this gun is a police special, the regulation kind for the police department. Anyone know how come it came to be in Joe's possession?
Yeah, he had it for some time, Mr. Logan. He had a brother-in-law in the force and borrowed it for protection.
And now he uses it to commit suicide with. Rather ironic, I should say.
Yeah, it is, all right.
Pat.
Yes, Diane.
The coroner just moved the bullet. He thought you'd probably want to look at it. Here it is.
Yes. Fine. 45 caliber. Fired at close range.
If you want anything more, I'll stick around.
Hey, wait a minute. Diane, you're sure this is the bullet? The suicide bullet itself?
Well, of course, Pat. Why not?
Just that this little bullet changes the whole picture.
What do you mean?
Just this, Mr. Koski. Joe Matelli didn't commit suicide any more than I did. He was murdered.
I thought there was something funny here.
Murder?
Yes, Mr. Koski, murdered. And I think you're in for another surprise right on top of that one. Because you're under arrest, Koski, for that same murder.
So the supposed suicide was murder after all, and Mike Koski is under arrest. Do you know the clue? In a moment we'll hear, but first... And now, back to our mystery.
What's the matter with you, Logan? Everything checks, doesn't it?
Yes, Koski, everything checks. You testified when you entered the room a moment before Matelli fell to the floor. This suicide gun was still in his hands.
So what?
That gun was not the death weapon, Koski, and this bullet proves it. You might be interested to know all regulation police guns, like the one Matelli was supposed to have killed himself with, are 38 calibers. And this bullet, the death bullet, is a 45. It just wouldn't fit.
Another 5-minute mystery.
Inspector Harris speaking. Yes? What? Gregory Thorndyke murdered. What's the address? Yes? Yes, I'll be right over.
Inspector Harris is here, gentlemen.
Oh, yes, Oliver. Show him in.
This way, sir.
How do you do, Inspector Harris? Won't you come in? I'm James Thorndyke, and this is my cousin, Robert Latimer.
How do you do?
Hello.
Mr. Thorndyke, the coroner tells me your father died of stabbing.
That's right, Inspector. He'd been stabbed right through the heart.
Who discovered the body?
I did, sir.
Yes, Oliver?
It was around 8 this morning. I was taking up Mr. Thorndyke's breakfast, as I do every morning, and found poor Mr. Thorndyke with that knife sticking in him.
I see. Who was the last one to see him alive?
Well, I guess I am. I brought up Uncle's milk last night before I went to bed.
What time was that?
About 9:15.
And the coroner informs me he was killed about 11. Where were you three last night at about 11?
At 11? Why, I was at the movies.
Did anyone see you there?
No, not that I know of.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Latimer?
I'd gone to bed early last night, around 9. I slept right through the entire night until Oliver woke me this morning.
Well, Oliver, where were you at 11?
I was taking a walk. I felt a little groggy and wanted to get some fresh air.
I suppose no one saw you.
I'm afraid not, Inspector.
Well, this is swell. I've got 3 suspects, and all have flimsy alibis. One of you is lying, and I intend to... What's that?
Oh, that must be my alarm clock. I set it last night before I went to bed. Pardon me, I'll be right back.
What time is it, Mr. Thorndyke?
Time? Why, it's 10, exactly 10 o'clock.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Inspector. I must have forgotten to turn off the alarm this morning when Oliver woke me.
Yes, Latimer. And that forgetfulness is going to land you in the chair.
What do you mean?
I mean that I'm arresting you for the murder of Gregory Thorndyke.
How does the inspector know that Robert Latimer is the murderer? In a moment, we'll give you the solution, but first... And now, back to the inspector.
Mr. Latimer, you said that you went to bed at 9 last night, and that you slept right through the entire night.
But it's the truth.
I am afraid you're wrong, Latimer. The alarm clock just proved that. If you had gone to bed at 9 last night and set your alarm clock for 10, as you told me, it wouldn't have gone off at 10 this morning, but at 10 o'clock last night. Yes, Latimer, you murdered your uncle, and we'll soon get the story out of you at headquarters.
Another 5-minute mystery.
Watch your step there, young fella. You shouldn't be walking against the light with traffic so heavy.
Sorry, officer, I didn't see it.
Holy smoke, what was that?
Officer, a woman's falling out of that window.
Good heavens, she'll be killed.
Okay, back up here and let me through. Hey, Clancy, better call an ambulance. I'm going up to that hotel window to do a little investigating. You say your wife Rita jumped from this window, Graham.
That's right, officer. Miss Carlton here and I tried to stop her, but we weren't able.
Rita and I were old friends, officer.
My wife had been in ill health for some time. She had a nervous breakdown, and it seemed to make her afraid of everything. She feared elevators, high buildings, everything. I invited Miss Carlton for dinner this evening. Thought that perhaps she could cheer Rita up a little and help bring her back to normalcy.
But she changed so much.
How's that?
Well, instead of being cheered, she imagined that I was coming between her and Mr. Graham. Even accused me of it directly.
Then, tonight, with a startling suddenness, she stood up angrily and pushed over the coffee table, saying she knew we thought her crazy. Then she ran to that window, climbed up on the sill, and jumped.
This window's pretty small. And these newly made scratches on the windowsill, they're hunks of wood torn out by your wife's fingernails, here on the outer edge of the sill.
She must have made a grasp for the sill after she jumped. Miss Carlton and I both finally attempted to grab her, but we got to the window just as she fell forward, head first off the ledge.
Head first, eh?
That's right, officer. She climbed up here on the sill. Then, just as Miss Carlton and I made a grab for her, she leaned forward and fell.
Oh, it was terrible. If only Graham and I'd gotten there a fraction of a second sooner. Maybe if I hadn't been here, this wouldn't have happened.
Very true, Miss Carlton, and perhaps neither would I have to perform my little duty.
Your duty, officer?
Meaning, Miss Carlton, I arrest you and Mr. Graham for the murder of Rita Graham.
In just a moment, we'll see whether you, too, detected the flaw in Graham's and Miss Carlton's stories. But first... Now, back to the solution of our story.
Mr. Graham, you said your wife was afraid of everything, yet she didn't fear leaping from a 15th floor window. However, that isn't the biggest mistake you two made. Surely when you were struggling to push Miss Graham out of the window, you should have noticed where, in her futile efforts to stop you, her fingernails had torn out pieces from the outer edge of the sill. No person having jumped headfirst out of a 15th floor window would have time or the ability to turn in midair and frantically grasp the sill. Your alibi missed the mark that time.